Another shot of our 10-inch meter from the post office drive. This is the one I'll probably want to keep. Pump house number 1 and water tank number 1, which is in bad need of a paint job on the exterior, not to mention the interior. Controls for our pump house number 1, 3-phase submersible pump outside the tank, as well as a backup which is out of commission inside the tank, single phase. Examples of plumber's nightmares: valves that won't shut off. When that happens, you just add another cheat valve and hope that can shut it off, and so on and so forth, or cap the line off, as in this case. This is our actual feed line for the iodenator tank. We go from galvanized to PVC. A lot of elbows being used. And there's a meter and a good valve, the iodenator tank. An example of how it's reduced down to 3/8 from 3/4, why we can't get enough flow rate of iodine into our water as we're pumping to disinfect the water properly. We used to get close to 6 gallons a minute through that tank, and now it's down to 2, which is not enough to even show a residual after it leaves our pump house, the closest point to treatment, which is a sad situation. Iodine has been outlawed and should be taken out of use by 1993. No steps are underway in that regard from the trustee. He's still trying to get some more iodine, which we will or we won't. The environmentalists are trying to argue the point as to whether we should switch to chlorination right now or what. It's still in litigation now. That's an old valve feeding the backup propane pump in case of power failure, which we no longer have. This is an example of the paint peeling off and chipping and why it's doing that. The old paint was not scraped off, and the paint was applied right over the old paint, and that's why it's now peeling. And the last time it was painted was when I painted it back in 1981 when I first got up here. There's the overflow. And it overflows anytime that I'm pumping, so that I can be assured that the tank does not pump dry and the pump fry itself without any water to pump. Here we have pump house number 2 and tank number 2, the largest tank in the system, feeding 90% of the mountain. An example of good valves and good galvanized nipples. PVC conversion, which could crack in the threads. A ladder straight up climb 30 foot high. That needs to be negotiated at a time somebody wants to check the level of the tank, because the target or level gauge, which is how you determine the level without climbing that ladder, broke within the first year that it was in operation. Rusted out. Examples of all the seams on the tank being rusted on the outside, and they are rusted on the inside. We found this out as soon as we took the hatch off to find out why the target was not working in the first place, to tell us the level. Environmentalists do not like this at all. They think there's a chance that these seams might rupture and lose the tank, just fall apart, which is kind of doubtful, but we will develop pinhole leaks like that one patch you saw that was fish plated. Pinhole leaks out of all the seams is what's going to happen first. That's the only entryway into the tank. This is our backhoe, Massey Ferguson backhoe, an antique, ready for the graveyard, and has been for a number of years, but it's still getting the job done. I guess a good example of Murphy's Law. And the controls for our pump, the old pump that fried at the beginning of summer, 1991. Our plumbing. Notice that we at least have Schedule 80 nipples to break the galvanic corrosion from the use of steel to brass, stronger metal to a weaker metal, which causes galvanic corrosion. Controls properly listed and diagrammed as to what you need to repair if it ever goes wrong several years down the road, because that's our new pump there. All of our other pumps don't have that information. This is a shot of tank number 3 and the path that the water takes to get to tank number 3 from pump house number 2.